Today, we're deep diving into the future of artificial intelligence, not just machine learning as we know it, but a whole new way of thinking about AI. Welcome back, everyone, to Navellier Market Buzz. Thrilled to welcome Paul, the founder of Natural Intelligence. Paul is a former engineer at Micron and now leads one of the most fascinating approaches to AI hardware and software out there. Thank you so much, Paul, for being here.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm really excited to chat with both you and Louie.
I'm really excited to have Paul as a guest because he believes that natural intelligence utilizes an architecture like a human. And Paul may actually have an advantage over some machine learning in many applications like consumer electronics, some defense applications, and of course, robotics.
Paul, can natural intelligence prevent a SkyNet scenario like in the Terminator movies when the machines took over?
Yeah, Crystal, that's actually a really interesting question. And it goes to one of the most amazing traits of human intelligence. When you have a thought, generally speaking, you can explain why you have a thought or explain the basis for some conclusion that you as a human being have come to. AI today, and I'll use maybe the term classical AI as we go through our discussion, but AI today doesn't have that level of explainability. And there's an old saying for engineers: if you want to control something, you have to understand how it works. And if we look at things like our large language models today, we don't truly understand how they come to the decisions that they do. Human intelligence is very explainable. Natural intelligence has built AI systems that are completely transparent and explainable. And so from that perspective, if you can understand it, you can control it. I think technology like ours is going to be very important to the future of AI as this really explodes. And I don't think we've even seen the explosion yet. But as it really explodes and pervades all of our lives in ways that, frankly, are even hard to imagine today, this explainability is going to be key for us, for, dare I say, humanity as we go forward.
Paul, since natural intelligence is looking at correlated pockets of data, just like a human, isn't your approach to AI more efficient? Doesn't it use less energy? It's easier to program because it doesn't get contaminated by a bunch of external data?
Yeah, well, two things. First of all, the human brain is intrinsically low energy. Crystal, Louie, your brain nominally is consuming about 20 watts of power, yet has far more capability than many of the AI systems that we see in production today. And so, because our system is designed to leverage the most contemporary neuroscience and understanding about how the human brain works, and then we as engineers convert that into something that can be used, we also adopt the same characteristic traits. And we'll talk about a few of those today, but one of them for sure, Louie, is low energy consumption. And so you don't have to look very far in the industry today to understand the critical problem that energy consumption is in AI. It is in many ways the problem in AI today. And that's because we are using brute force methods. Classical AI is really about brute force, tremendous sized semiconductors, memory systems, data centers to power the algorithms that make up language models and so forth. The human brain happens to be a lot more elegant, a lot more efficient, and consumes a lot less energy. And so that's one aspect of it. And so we have that property. But you touched on something else. You as a human being can consume an incredible amount of information in its raw rawest form, meaning the data that we ingest every day as humans is dirty. It's imperfect. Let me give you an example. If I were to show you an image of, let's say, the Mona Lisa today, and I randomly deleted half of the pixels from that image, as a human, you would have no trouble looking at that image and saying, that is indeed the Mona Lisa. For a machine, it gets more difficult. When dealing with dirty data, uncleansed or unprocessed data, AI systems start to degrade in terms of the quality of the decisions. And so this is maybe the second human-like property that I would attribute to our system. Natural intelligence has built an AI system that can ingest raw data in the same way that humans can. Dirty, corrupted, even missing information. You know, for example, a medical record, people don't like to fill in how often a week do you smoke or drink or whatever. Those fields are sometimes left blank. That can befuddle a traditional classical AI system. A more human-like AI system that natural intelligence is building can take that data just as it is and maintain very high-quality decision outcomes, if you will. And so those are kind of two of the ways that our system kind of addresses the issues that you brought up here.
Kind of switching gears, I'm a longtime Nvidia and Super Micro computer shareholder, and I have to ask, how long do you think Nvidia can dominate machine learning? And do you think that Super Micro will continue to lead in powering cloud infrastructure with their water-cooled rack systems?
Yeah, I'll share with you my opinion, Crystal. First of all, Nvidia will continue to dominate until they are disrupted. And let me just go a little bit deeper than that. It's not just a theory that I happen to believe in. It's maybe perhaps one of the most repeatable theories in the high-tech industry, advanced by a professor from Harvard Business School, that essentially says, when you have a market leader, Nvidia in this case, it is virtually impossible to beat them by delivering an incremental improvement over what they are already doing. And while it may be true that at this instant in time, somebody may develop a better GPU than Nvidia, it doesn't matter, because the incumbent with their market power, traction, just sheer clout, will eventually co-op, subsume, whatever, and continue rolling upon their merry way. The only way to disrupt a market leader is with what is referred to as a disruptive innovation, meaning you have to do something fundamentally different than they have done. And so I would say this, that if you look at Nvidia as the leader of classical AI, there are a lot of companies, both big and small, that are also working in classical AI, which means there's a lot of, if I may say, walking dead in the AI industry right now. There just simply isn't room, and there isn't enough differentiation. Now, on the other hand, there are emerging areas in AI of disruptive innovation. Natural intelligence is one of those companies, not the only one, but one of those companies that is working on that disruptive innovation. It's a hard row to hoe, a tough path to go down, because everybody looks at Nvidia and classical AI as kind of the ultimate solution today. So this disruptive innovation needs to bring some really important advantages, and I just talked about a couple of them for natural intelligence. That's the path that I think we're on. Nvidia will be safely in the catbird seat until that disruptive innovation disrupts. And 5 more years, 10 more years, it's difficult to say. But I'll end with this with respect to NVIDIA, then we'll talk about Super Micro. This much we can be certain of. It will happen. Okay? We don't know the precise time frame, but NVIDIA, or if we want to get less personal, the SIMD-based technology that NVIDIA is really good at will be disrupted. There's no question about it. If you want to place a bet on that, because it will happen. Now, with respect to Super Micro, that's a little bit harder to defend territory. They're a great company. I've done a lot of work with them over my professional career. They're an outstanding company, really. But the concepts of cooling, pulling energy out of these massive AI systems and so forth, there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat. It really does become I don't want to say it's a commoditized capability because it's not yet, but I would say it's trending that way, and there's a lot of different approaches that can be taken to pull energy or thermal energy out of these systems. So Super Micro is doing a great job of it now. I think their business maybe is a little bit harder to defend maybe than the NVIDIA business is today.
So, Paul, we have cloud centers in Reno, mostly Google and Apple, and they're growing pretty dramatically. I would assume in Boise, you're also growing with cloud centers. So don't you have cheap electricity that the cloud needs?
Yeah, we do. As I'm looking out over our mountain range here, we're blessed with a lot of mountains. Those mountains capture a lot of snow, and that snow creates a lot of rivers. And so we've got about, not quite 20, maybe 17, I think, was the last I checked, hydro projects, dams and other things, delivering energy within our state. And our electrical rates are on industrial levels anyway, almost half the cost of the national average for electricity. And so, yeah, Louis, your instincts are exactly right. As I look out over our horizon, just out our window here, there is a nearly $1 billion Meta data center going in right now. That's probably the flagship one right here in the valley. But throughout Idaho, data centers are either being revamped, updated, because it's all about energy. You have to have a cheap source of energy, and companies like Meta, it's not just cheap energy, they actually like Idaho's renewable energy. It just fits in a nice green pocket. And so cheap and renewable, that makes Idaho, I think, a state that's likely to continue to grow in terms of data center operations that are being constructed here in our state.
So let's talk about something a little more sci-fi, but maybe not for long. Elon Musk just teased the Tesla diner where Optimus robots might serve food. Paul, when do you think consumers might be able to buy an Optimus robot?
Yeah, I love that question. And Optimus is definitely on the forefront of this, not alone by any means. But again, personal view, I think we are somewhere between 5 and 10 years. They won't necessarily be cheap. I mean, I don't know, maybe a cheap car scale type of investment to start with. But based on what I've seen and kind of my inside view of where AI is going and ultimately AGI, artificial general intelligence, I think we're probably on a 5 to 10 year burn towards getting these humanoid type robots from Optimus and others into the hands of consumers.
Paul, Grok AI is being pushed by Elon Musk. Is it going to be a threat to ChatGPT or other AI software applications?
That's Louis. That's a really good question. in the heavens above us, there's a clash of titans. Elon and Grok AI, of course, but then we have Zuckerberg and we have Sam Altman and others. And it is a full-scale, large-scale war going on right now. And on one hand, there's a common thread of similarity between what they're doing, but everybody has kind of their own unique take, and Grok AI has something that maybe isn't quite as accessible for some of the others. And what they have is X. And what that means is they have what you might think of as a real-time stream to sentiment, as much as that can be deduced from all of the X traffic. And they're exploiting it. And so in that dimension, you might think of it as being current. Grok AI has some advantages. Now, of course, we can't look by Google because of their access to similar kinds of information. And so each one of these companies has a little bit different take or asset, if you will, that they're exploiting. I actually think Grok AI is doing a good job, and maybe it just gives us an idea about the strategy that Elon had from the beginning. You know, about, was it this all part of a big plan? I personally don't know, but the acquisition of Twitter, was that done for good, benevolent reasons? Or was really the impetus to provide the information needed to train what I'm sure Elon hopes will be the world's greatest AI system? I don't know which led which, but I think he's doing a fine job right now of exploiting what he has and trying to bring it all together to do something great.
Staying in that lane, I gotta ask, who do you think will win the Robotaxi wars?
It's a good question. Waymo's a lot of fun. You know, and here we go, Elon again. He has his own initiative, and I'm sure we will see others. This gets into a little bit of well, first of all, they have to work. There is really, let's just say, no room for error in these things. And so that is the prerequisite. That is the ante to the game, the Robotaxi game, if you will, is it really, really has to work. And the thing that I wonder about are the decisions about the fully autonomous technology in the vehicles. And I don't know, Crystal or Louie, if you guys ever golf, but there's I imagine you have, but there's a famous saying from some golfer, I forget who, but he said, you know, when you get to the tee box, the rules allow you to tee up the ball. Yet I see all kinds of golfers that will hit off the turf on a tee box. He said, why would you ever give up the advantage of teeing up the ball? And I look at autonomous driving that way. There's no question that a LiDAR system will give you additional information, and with more information, presumably you should be able to make better choices. That's not a complicated concept. And so, for a variety of reasons, Tesla, Elon, what have you, have decided to pursue fully autonomous vehicles without the additional information that LiDAR can provide. Now, I don't think the jury has finally concluded whether or not it's good enough, but I think I would favor an approach that starts by taking in the most information that you can, and then slowly, with time and confidence, start to peel some of that back if it really isn't providing an advantage. That's just sort of my engineering view of how I would approach that kind of problem. Yet for Tesla and therefore their autonomous taxis, they're operating Well, they're not using a tee. They're hitting off the turf, and that, I think, is having some consequences for them now.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. 'Cause we have a home in the Sierra in the hills outside of Reno, and we're just horrified of ever hitting an animal. And the cars we drive do have Lidar, and we want to see them. And in fact, last week we were showing the bear in my driveway. It's a long story. The fruit trees are blossoming, so the bear is busy eating the fruit. But unfortunately, a deer had a couple babies, and a car hit him in our neighborhood. And you don't go very fast in our neighborhood. But Lidar would have stopped that. And so I just worry about things like that, and especially at night, and also all the other thing we got to watch is all these sensors we have. The Uber system, which is going to be the VW Buzz. They put the sensors on the roof just to better cope with snow, sleet, rain, all that kind of stuff. So, I worry about that too. So hopefully Elon can retrofit with Lidar. Our Lidar stock is HSAI. It is a Chinese company, but it's been a great stock, and they make it pretty cheap. So if it's cheap, might as well add it.
Yeah, and Louis, I'm not a Lidar expert, but I can only imagine that it's coming down the cost curve where maybe Elon's apprehension was the high cost of Lidar at that time. He may have been right then, but wrong in the future as Lidar continues to come down the cost curve.
Correct. And like where you are, there's elk in Idaho. I mean, you don't want to hit an elk. I mean,
yeah, goodness no, that would be a bad outcome for everybody. Yeah, that's very true.
So Lidar will save your life where you are.
That's right.
So one thing I find really interesting is how your AI behaves more like a natural system. Would you say that natural intelligence learns and adapts almost like a pet, maybe even conditioning humans the way dogs do?
In one view, let me put it this way. Again, I'll use that term classical AI. You can think of that to be neural net and Nvidia style AI. It's an incredibly complex system, and you hear this term, a billion parameters, a trillion parameters. That number is increasing, and just for the audience, a parameter is nothing more than a numeric value, and the process of training an AI system is the process of changing those numeric values such that the system starts to give coherent, accurate output. And so you're really trying to train now a trillion parameters that are all interconnected. It's like a very, very, very complicated puzzle to put together. In fact, it's amazing that it works, but it does. Now, that's very unlike the learning that goes on inside your head. All your neurons are not connected together. At any given time, you may have heard it said that we only use a small fraction of our brain. Well, that's actually true. We do only use a small fraction of our brain. At any one time, a tiny fraction of our neurons are actually firing and participating in a decision or a thought. And such is the case with our system. Why do we save energy? Why does our system run with 1,000 times less energy than a classical AI system? Because we've adopted human-like learning. Only a small fraction of our chip is ever active at any one time. That's very unlike classical AI, where the whole thing is burning like a 1,000-watt spotlight for every second that the system is powered up. And so that's part of it. But the other part, and just test yourselves here, classical AI, in order for it to learn something new, generally speaking, you have to retrain it from scratch. Now think about that in a human sense. Let's take our discussion here today. Maybe you're learning something new from me and what I'm sharing with you today. Imagine if you had to be reset in order to learn that. You don't have to be reset. You as human beings are perfectly capable of learning new things real time as you're operating out in the environment. Classical AI cannot do that. So natural intelligence, with our natural AI, we really are excited about what we call adaptive AI. That is AI that you can turn loose and never retrain again, because it is constantly assimilating new information and learning in exactly the same way that you can learn new things while you're living your everyday life. And so in the confines of this kind of podcast, we can only get into these topics at a certain level of depth. But the ability to learn new things with very few examples and to get smarter every second of every day without the expensive retraining is really the essence of what our company is about.
That's wonderful. I'm increasingly convinced that because natural intelligence is so efficient, it's got to have an advantage over a lot of the machine learning. I was always very critical, like the CIA or NSA, they didn't predict 9/11 or October 7th, and it just they might have been just looking at too much data, or as you said, have to reset every time they got to reboot things and if they go down the wrong path. So I think we can all understand how animals retain and learn things, and of course you're energy efficient, so that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, Louis, we think so, and like I said, it's not necessarily the easiest path to follow, but the results are going to be worth it, and so we'll continue every day to pursue this path of moving beyond classical AI, and that is our life and our company's passion. So we're hard at it, and we're getting closer every day.
So I also hold shares in Palantir, and they've been making headlines with their defense and intelligence contracts. Do you think that they have the edge in military-grade AI systems?
I think so. Today, yes. Yes, they do. Defense tech is great because the need really never gets more acute than it does in defense. There's really no margin for error, and if you don't get it right, there's this term called AI superiority. If the U.S. loses AI superiority, and it's even questionable how superior we are today, given other nation states and their relentless pursuit towards AI. But they're willing to spend almost any amount of money to make sure that we have, the United States and our allies, the best systems for decision-making possible. Palantir has filled that void quite nicely in many different ways up to this point. I think they're absolutely a fabulous company. And I'm sure that they will evolve in the role and the technology that they provide as new disruptive AI innovations come forward. I would expect, given what I know about Palantir, that they would quickly adopt new technologies to continue improving the systems that they're delivering to the defense tech industry and to the U.S. DoD. And so they're in a great position right now, and I would expect them to maintain a dominant position in defense tech going forward.
So, Paul, how do people learn more about your company?
Well, we have a website, naturalintelligence.ai. Some of our deepest held secrets we, of course, don't put up on our website. So I always welcome a call We've got a number of large corporations right now that we're in beta projects with. And so your audience, if they're interested in potentially using our natural AI system, we would welcome a call or click the Learn More Here button on our website. I'd be happy, personally, I often do, take those calls directly. So just feel free to reach out to us on our website, and we'll do everything we can to get back in touch with you as quickly as possible.
And since our viewers are mostly investors, you're private now, right?
We are a private company. We are in a capital raising mode right now. We are talking to a number of really high quality venture firms, as well as some corporations that are interested in our technology and investment opportunities. So happy to take calls of that nature as well.
Wonderful.
Well, Paul, this has been such a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much again for joining us and giving us a look into where AI is really headed. We'll keep a close eye out on natural intelligence and everything you're building.
Okay, Louis, Crystal, this has been a great time, great discussion. I appreciate you inviting me in.
We appreciate all your insight, Paul. Thank you again.
And for everyone watching, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Also, be sure to check the links in the description below to learn more about Paul's work and natural intelligence. Also, keep an eye out for a bonus video this week, but thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.